This is Dr. James with HelpMommy.com, and today is the second of a 5-part series on 1-month-olds. And today we're going to talk about changing stool patterns, because a baby's poop is definitely going to change around the time they're 1 month old. And it can change in all kinds of different ways. So when they're first born, after they get through the black stuff, then we go through transitional stools, and then we get to your normal baby poop, where a lot of times it'll be really watery, and they'll be pooping about every time that they eat. And that is a reflex. Well, around the time they're a month old, now this isn't everyone. You can't put them all in a box. But around the time they're 3 to 5 weeks old, most babies are going to lose that reflex, and all of a sudden they don't know how to poop. And so it slows way down. So instead of going from, pooping 1 to 2 times every time they eat, or, 6 to 8 times a day, now all of a sudden they may be pooping 1 to 2 times a day. And then sometimes they're skipping days. And breastfed babies are notorious for going infrequently. They're also notorious for going a lot. But anyway, this is going to change. As they slow down, they don't know how to poop. And so when they go to poop, they get really fussy and they pull up their legs and they cry and they pass a bunch more gas. But then when it finally comes out, it should still be soft. There are 3 times in a baby's life that it's kind of predictable that they can get constipated. One, when they're a month old. The other one at a year old, when we transition from breast milk to formula to whole milk. And then the third time is when they're potty training. These are all times where constipation can transiently appear. If you have hard stools, if they're coming out like balls, this is constipation. And this is something that you should call your pediatrician about. Trust me, every one of my kids is well versed in the conversation of constipation, because it's something that I talk about every day. They've heard it at every dinner, every restaurant, every vacation. I have talked about poop. My 12-year-old could take care of your baby's constipation because he's heard it so many times. But if your baby is having hard stools and having a hard time pooping, that means they're having pain. That's something we need to take care of. Now, how do you take care of that? There are all kinds of different ways that we have, recommended taking care of constipation, ways to loosen stools. Your pediatrician is going to have their own way that they have learned and they've tried and they've experimented with. Different things that people have used is, one, getting hard stool out of the way. So they might do this with using like Vaseline on the tip of a rectal thermometer. They may do this with a glycerin suppository. They may do this with an enema. But something has to stimulate the baby in order for them to poop and to pass that hard stool. We don't have anything out there that's going to make that hard stool looser again so that they can pass it and it not be hard. Now, there are also, if we're going to have more hard stools, and this becomes something that isn't just 1 or 2 times, but they're just consistently having hard stools, then we don't want them to have that pain. And then there's ways that we can loosen stools. And those things can be, you'll have them do like Caro syrup, or you might have them do a little juice, or they may do a medicine called Miralax or something like that to loosen stools. For most babies, this is something that's, a temporary problem where it may last a day or 2, maybe a week or 2, and then they go on. But other babies, this can become something that's chronic, where they chronically have constipation. A lot of times this runs in families. If this is the case, we can't let them just have hard stools. This is something that becomes psychologically a problem where, as they're growing up, they think it hurts when they poop, and so they try not to poop. And then you have a baby that becomes almost impossible to potty train and can have long-term problems as well. So, if you have a baby that's passing hard stools, and, if they have one and the next one's fine, then that's okay. But if you have, hard stools and they're persistent, you need to call your doctor, and we need to talk you through a plan on how to take care of your baby's constipation. So that's not a normal thing. But for our normal babies, after about 2 weeks or so of them grunting and straining and passing gas, they should figure out how to poop and then get more on a schedule. A lot of times, by the time they're 2 months old, you almost know exactly what time your baby's going to poop because they're on a pretty good schedule. But that's not every baby. Everybody doesn't fit in that nice little box. And so there's some that are all over that are outliers. But if you have a baby that is passing hard, painful stools, it's time to talk to your doctor.